Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of Hiker Homily. Also, kind of a five on food, but I probably won't do it in 5 minutes, but we'll see. So, it's going to be one of those things, or both. Uh, but basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about food when you're backpacking and how to do it without really breaking that budget, because that can be a concern. Usually a lot of folks, when they think backpacking food, they think of something like this that I'm putting on the screen now. Your basic made for backpacking dehydrated meal and things like that. And I've reviewed a few of those on the channel, and I'm going to be reviewing more on the channel from various brands, various meals and stuff like that. But I'm going to be 100% honest. In my opinion, is that although those can be good because they are totally dehydrated, they're very light. If you need to, you can repack them. But one of the good things about them, there goes my hand. One of the good things about them is you can actually usually cook them right in the package they come in. You don't need extra stuff. All you got to do is be able to boil water and pour that water in there, and you should be able to cook right in the package. So convenient, yes, they are. But the other thing that they tend to be is a little more expensive, depending on where you get them. If you could get them in bulk, hey, power to you, that's great. But most of the time, if you get them at a backpacking supply store, a camping store, and things like that, I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I'm not going to mention any stores or any specific brands of backpacking food, because they're all basically the same kind of thing. You open up the pouch, you pour the water in, the boiled water rehydrates the dehydrated food, and then you eat it and stuff. And there's all kinds of different ones. Like I said, I'm going to be reviewing a bunch, and I already have reviewed some. But the one thing that most of them have in common is the cost per meal. It's up there. That if you're going on a backpack trip that's any length and you need at least 2 meals, if say you're just going to do a lunch of some salami and some cheese, and I've been on plenty of backpacks where that was the lunch, or a simple lunch of a trail mix, or just easy things like that, a tortilla with some peanut butter in it, that's your lunch. You're still going to need a breakfast and a dinner, and if you're doing those breakfasts and dinners from the backpacking dehydrated meals, that's going to get expensive if you've got a 5-day trip coming and things like that. And for some people, you're like, oh, it's not that expensive, I can do it, I looked at the prices. Okay, but I'm going by my experiences when I was a younger man and backpacking on a budget, because that's how it was. I was trying to juggle college. All the money I was making was going into buying books for college, paying for tuition, things like that. So I had this nice job working for a large company during the summer that paid me pretty well over the summer as a summer hire, but it all went to my college. That or my car. I had to make sure my car was running and it had gas to get me to college, and things like that. So when I did have some time off in the summertime and wanted to go backpacking, it was on a budget. And if it was a 3-day backpack trip or something like that, I wasn't going to spend at the time $4 or $5 per meal. That adds up to a decent amount of money back then, for me. And so that's what I'm thinking of. Is I'm thinking of the backpackers who are backpacking on a budget. That really nice, convenient, which you're paying for, backpacker food. It can be tasty, and maybe bring one as a special treat or something if you've done it before and it's really good and you like it. Cool. But for the most part, you need to eat on a budget, and it's possible to do. Again, I'm not sponsored by any store. I just happened, if you notice what store this is, it's not an endorsement of that particular store or their brands or anything like that. Just happened to be on a shopping trip where everything was laid out. You can get things like this. There's a lot of stuff there that works really well as backpacking food. You repackage it, take it outside of its boxes. Some of it works better than others, and you can do things with. But amazing, you can put together some really good flavors and good meals doing it, and your meals will cost you $1.50 to $2 each, which is way better than the freeze-dried backpacking food, okay? It really is, as far as price goes. And sometimes, maybe even sometimes taste and things like that. Now, some of the stuff I put up there, I do acknowledge is not freeze-dried. Some of it is still ready to eat, basically. You tear it open, like some of the chickens and the meats and things like that. Chicken, tuna, some of those things. They are still fairly light, and so they would still work on shorter trips where you're not carrying that much meals and things. I brought a couple of those things with me on the Lost Coast Trail, and they worked out fine, especially because they were the first things, like the first night I dug into, I think it was the spicy potato meal that I brought with me, because it was one of the heavier meals that I had brought. So I got rid of that right away, but it was really good on the first night to have that. It was a good meal, tasted great. It was almost like a treat because it wasn't dehydrated stuff I had to rehydrate. I yummed it up, and then that took care of that fairly heavy meal right off the bat. So if you strategize like that, you can do it on longer backpack trips. You may want to be careful for some of those things because, again, they're not dehydrated, so they do add weight, but there are plenty of options that are out there. There are more and more coming out with different tastes. It's absolutely incredible what's coming out now that you can just, I've seen things now where it's like hamburger meat, ground hamburger meat that is packaged now, not freeze-dried, but it's ready to go. It's already spiced. So on a short backpack trip, that's one of those things where, slightly a little bit of weight because it's not freeze-dried, but it's not such a big package that it's really heavy. And boy, that would taste really good added to either my ramen or my couscous or on a burrito. Just make a taco or a burrito out of it on a tortilla. And there we go, a meal. That and a little cheese, I've got a meal. Pretty good stuff. So it's out there. You just have to, go to some of the stores and just shop for it. I know that's the big joke is, ramen. Yes, ramen, it is. It's a big thing because it is extremely cheap. You can get a lot of it for a small amount of money, and it turns into a good meal, and it works good as a base. Ramen is one of those things where, along with things like couscous or certain rices and stuff like that, that it's good for heating up and cooking. It's good for cold soaking, and it works as a base. And by that, I mean, you make it and then you can add other things to it to make a full meal. Ramen by itself, can it be a meal? Absolutely. I've had ramen even here in my house. I'll just make it for lunch and just have some noodles for lunch with a tasty broth and things like that. But when you're out there backpacking and things like that, you can add things to it, different types of protein, different meats you can get out there. Some of those ones like I showed and things like that. Added to the ramen, it can be pretty tasty and make for a really good full-on meal when you're out there backpacking. So that's the big thing is if you're a new backpacker, you're excited, you're out there in one of the big backpacking stores, like one that has 3 letters. Again, I'm not going to mention anything specific. And some of the other sporting goods stores that have backpacking stuff, and you're working on my first trip, and I want to do this, and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to get sucked into this is backpacking food, therefore that's what I have to take to eat and stuff like that. There are other options. Some of that stuff is really good. And like I say, even if it's like on a short trip and you want to bring a couple because you just, wow, that sounds tasty and things, or you've tried it before and it's tasty, it works well. And hey, I'm only going out for 3 or 4 nights, so I'm going to bring a couple of those just for fun. Awesome. Nothing wrong with that. But there are ways to feed yourself while backpacking that does not require you to have one of those more expensive meals every single time you eat. So the options are out there. I just showed a whole bunch of them, and they're out there in your regular supermarkets. Okay, you just go to your pre-made meals, and they're there. Usually the proteins and stuff are on the same aisle as the spam aisle, and spam now comes in little packages. You can bring some of that with you. Again, You have to understand that, feel it when you're picking it up. Am I going to want to carry this package for such and such miles for meal number 3? Because some of the stuff is not dehydrated, so it's going to have some weight with it. But the options are there. The options are there to not have to go totally dehydrated, or even if you want to go totally dehydrated, there are options that don't include having to buy an expensive, convenient backpacker meal. You can make your own backpacker meals with stuff that's in your regular grocery store, that this costs $1. This is 49 cents for 2 of them. This one, you can do that kind of stuff and then put stuff together and make your own meals and even repackage them if you have to. So there's that there. Backpacking food. It doesn't have to break your budget. It can be done smartly if you do it smartly, if you think about it. So other than that, appreciate y'all paying attention to this goofy little channel. Thank you very much for all of you who are watching. Appreciate it. And other than that, I'm going to catch you next time.